Hello everyone. On this video I just wanted to get into the 7 deadly sins a little bit and maybe add some clarity to what my higher self tends to believe is the case when it comes to these sins. It just so happens that a lot of these same kinds of things or practices, sins if you will, are the same actions that block your chakras from opening, preventing you from contacting God's source while incarnate. And the first sin we'll cover is greed, which is pretty self-explanatory for the most part. I believe we do currently live in a system that honors the love of money more than love, equality, all of the good aspects that of ourselves that we all have are drowned out because of this pursuit of happiness that we call money. But even some of the richest people will tell you that that's not what does it for them. They're not. You can have all the money in the world and still not feel satisfied internally. But, you know, that's the monkey on most of our backs right now. And greed doesn't just pertain to the banks. It's also found in our religious systems, the pharmaceutical and healthcare industries. And it's been affecting all of humanity, which in turn affects the earth and the other people on it. So this rat race in the physical seems to be all about how much wealth and monetary success you can acquire, but you can't take that to you you can't take that with you to the grave. And you'll spend your whole life incarnate chasing your own tail just to have to come back to do it all again for not learning the lesson while you were here, for not obeying what is naturally within yourself. Most of us have realized from an early age that this is a screwed up system, and we don't want to honor them. We don't want to honor it any longer. That's why so many of us are waking up, because we did stay true to our heart. The next one would be lust. Speaking of hearts, lust can be tricky. Lust is often disguised as love, but it's primarily a selfish type of love. I mean, it's lust, because if it's a selfish love, then it's not really love. So lust pertains more to sexual attraction or desire of just wanting to conquer the opposite sex, or, you know, the conquest that you want or have in mind at that time. And there's a chart here that kind of explains what the differences are between love and lust. And the next one would be gluttony. I think that's also pretty self-explanatory. Kitty, kitty, no. Gluttony, overconsumption, and it doesn't really just have to be food, although lots of us do it. Lots of people are guilty of eating more, you know, your eyes being bigger than your stomach, or we all overindulge on, you know, the alcohol and addictive drugs and food and consumption of shiny things and game systems. And if you're overindulging in anything, pretty much, you are blocking out that spiritual center within yourself. Pride. That kind of encompasses a lot of things. It is important to remain humble, even in these spiritual communities. I know there's a lot of people that, have had access to information or have intel from channeling that maybe others don't have access to for one reason or another, which might make people feel like they're coming across in a superior way of some kind. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, it's only if one were to say, this is the way, this is the only way, I'm right and there is nobody else. And you will see a lot of that in the religious factions as well. But it's good to always remain humble. If you are one of these spiritual people that feel like you've been chosen by an ET contact or whatever, it's best to just stay humble about that, share your experiences, and a lot of times you can tell how authentic that person is being, whether if it's coming from a space of ego or whether they're just, or if it's humility. So, and often with pride comes judgment. I mean, if you think you're better than everybody else, then you tend to judge everyone else. Or, like I said, you'll think you're superior in some kind of way. And then with pride, pride encompasses ego and vanity, for that matter. If you're always reliant upon other people's validation, opinions of you, or their perceptions, then you're not coming from a place of self-love, and it's going to harm you in the long run. It's not a healthy behavior. And I think we all know those types that are the attention whores, or it's obvious they're just trying to get as many subscribers as possible, or as many likes on their content as possible, or they're just being phonies. They're being fake, and they're not being. It's more about appearance, that outside appearances or superficial bullshit versus their spirit, their soul, their heart, all of those good things that are within. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the destruction to your spirit and your soul to be popular, in a sense. Vanity in this world has gotten out of hand. And I only need to say one name in particular. Starts with a K. One family seems to have taken over our world through vanity and pride and ego. Oh, there she is. That's like worshiping false idols. Oh, here's some good commercial advertisements. Sex sells in this world. What does sex and a hamburger have anything to do with each other? I mean, I just don't get it. Or I don't get how these people have been put on a pedestal because of their looks or sexual acts or their celebrity. The people that should be put on the pedestal are the people that are kind and generous and warm, caring, sharing beings. Sloth. Sloth is oftentimes related to laziness. And I'm not saying there's anything against being lazy or taking some time to yourself once in a while. But if you become like a hermit, if you're completely antisocial, you're not communicating with anybody, your best friend is the TV or a video game, or junk food, I mean, that's not living. How are you able to be giving or kind or any of these, how are you able to embrace all these spiritual aspects of yourself if you're so consumed by programming? I mean, this is a zombie apocalypse, people. It just didn't come in the form that we had predicted. Technology has taken over our forms of communication, and it makes it really, it's not personal. It's not personable anymore. It's easier to bully people online. Everybody's got their vices, I guess. Envy. Envy's never cool. Envy and jealousy. I mean, I know in relationships, sometimes it's nice if your partner's jealous because it's kind of an indication that they do really care, or, they really don't want to lose you. So it can be cute. But if it's in a malicious way, if you're constantly talking shit or gossiping about other people, or trying to be a homewrecker, or, invade on somebody's marriage, or steal, you might be envious of something somebody has, so you decide to take it, like, carjackers and house burglars and things like that. I mean, that's all relative. It's all relative to jealousy and envy. And it is a sin, and I'm going to explain in a second why they call it the 7 deadly sins. And I kind of touched on it a little bit ago, but it's just not becoming of anybody. People are probably not happy with their lives if they're busy discussing yours. Haters are going to hate, and it only, that doesn't reflect on me or the victim. It reflects on the hater. Like, they got issues with themselves if they're that envious or jealous of somebody. Or if they, a lot of times people might feel threatened by you. And that's just their automatic reaction. And I do believe insecure people put others down to raise themselves up, and that's just sad. It's disgusting. A lot of people that are unhappy with their own lives are the very people that are talking about others. And you need to appreciate what you do have. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. You need to be more appreciative and grateful for the things that you have instead of wishing for the things that you don't. Wrath. That's a really ugly one. I mean, that pretty much encompasses hate or persecution or wanting to punish somebody in a malicious way, not being able to control your anger, any form of abuse, having to seek dominance or control over anybody else, like a tyrant, whether it's in adult relationships, child abuse, animal abuse, abusing yourself. People can get so consumed and pissed off with their own life, and we have all these self-mutilators out there cutting themselves, and I mean, that's no better than harming somebody else. In fact, it's worse on some scale. We need to have more self-respect and dignity and integrity, because there's a lot of that lacking on this planet. And if you don't respect yourself, ain't nobody else gonna. And I learned that the hard way. And I'm not perfect. And a lot of these things I have had to learn the hard way. But at least I've learned them, you know? And I get it, you know? I do my research. I do my inner work. I'm always self-reflecting. Just like with the vanity thing, it's perfectly fine to love yourself. Just don't get carried away. It's good to love yourself. And because a lot of times, nobody else is going to do that for you either. Sometimes you're the only one that gives a shit about you, unfortunately. But war and death and trying to impose your religious beliefs or invading territories to take them over or rob them of their minerals or resources, that's all a form of wrath as well. You know, we are losing too many souls because of wrath and hate and domination. And never create content with wrath in your heart. Keep the content positive and avoid negativity. If you want to address something controversial, wait until you've settled down. Wait until you're clear again, you know? So, those are all the 7 deadly sins. And I do feel like they're all significant. You know, I don't necessarily love the Bible, but there's some things in there. There is a Bible code, and some things do make sense on a whole nother level. The sin does separate us from God because of what I said earlier. If you don't practice doing your inner work and finding out who you truly are and standing to that, you know, you got to stick by your own side in this world. Voice what you feel. Stay true to your heart so that you can overcome these sins and make contact with God. Too many people, that is the reptilian brain. You know, we have a right side and left side of our brain, and a lot of people think one side is reptilian and the other side is love. And if anything, you need a good balance. And unfortunately, too many people are out of balance. I see it on a daily basis. Actually, a lot less lately because I'm not watching TV anymore. I'm trying to practice this thing where, like, out of sight, out of mind. Like, if I don't watch the TV, watch the political bullshit and any of the fear propaganda, then it doesn't exist to me in my world anymore. I'm going to try to avoid negativity at all costs. Try to keep my vibes up as much as possible. But I do feel that if you don't overcome these things before death, I believe they call it the 7 deadly sins, because if you're not able to overcome these quote-unquote sins before you leave this world, before you die this lifetime, if you haven't connected to your inner self or source before you die, you're going to come back to reincarnate. I think others that have reached this alignment with God and their higher selves before they die, they do ascend into other dimensions or other places in the universe upon their energy leaving their body. However, if you don't accomplish this task before death, you will have to reincarnate again. You have to continue to die versus becoming immortal, in a sense, until you are able to learn to get your shit together and overcome these fears and sins. However, I do think the Bible and Christianity and various other religious factions have made this whole, sin thing a lot more complicated and scary or heavier than it actually is. It's really not that hard. And I really do feel like these 7 things in particular is all that really matters in living by the golden rule. That's all you need. I personally don't believe that you're automatically saved because of Jesus' sacrifice for coming here. I do believe Jesus came here to teach these same things, to teach us how to overcome this part of ourselves and stay true to the light and the love within us. And only if you follow his path and do that, find the light within yourself and stay true to your heart, only then will you be saved. I mean, he didn't die so that we could sin as much as we want and everything's cool, kosher, we're all going to heaven after this life. I don't think that's the case in my heart of hearts either. That's just too freaking easy. I really think he wasn't saying, I died for you, you're good to go. He was saying, I came here to teach you this shit so that you would be good to go after practicing what I teach you. So sorry to burst anybody's bubble. But, you'd have to I would think you'd know better. You can't just go to church on Sunday and listen to shit that he talked about and think that you're saved. You actually have to do something, There is something required on your part here. But like you said, it's worth it in the long run. But I'm really thankful that I found all of this out before I died this incarnation, because I really don't want to come back to this place. I really don't. Not in the current state of affairs that it's in. So, but again, these are just my opinions and observations, and I love you, and I realize everyone's going to have their own opinions and observations as well, and take their own path. But I really hope you give this video, some consideration. Just mull it over, and just stay true to your heart and yourself, guys. I love you. I want to see you on the other side.